there, and welcome to Crafts with Ash. Welcome back if you're a subscriber, and welcome if you are new. My name's Ashley, and today I'm going to bring you 5 really great spring Easter decor items that I made from using all supplies from the Target Dollar Spot. So we already know that the Target Dollar Spot has some great items, and they are so high-end, but of course not at the high-end price. So I could not wait to style all of these items. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and give this video a thumbs up if you love all things DIY and decor. Then hop over to Facebook and Instagram and give me a like and follow there. We have a great crafting community, and sometimes I do live crafting on my Facebook page, and I would love for you to be a part of it. All right, let's get started. For my first Dollar Spot DIY, I picked up these vinyl stickers, and they're just like peel and stick vinyl letters from the Target Dollar Spot. And it is a 2-pack, so I'm going to be using both in this video. Then I'm also going to be using this box sign that I picked up from the Dollar Tree. So the first thing I did was just pry out that little hanger on the back, and then I tried to peel off all the paper on the front. Now the majority of it did come off, but it left like the bottom layer of the paper. You can see where the wood is underneath that. And then of course they had to be stubborn up here at the top. So I just gave up. I tried to use my my heat gun to try to, pick it all off, but I gave up. So I just sanded it all down. That way it was nice and smooth for me to cover. Next, I took this gorgeous paper that I got from Hobby Lobby, and I traced my board on top of that and then just cut it out. Then by using Mod Podge, I adhered my paper to my board. I just put a nice thin coat all over the board, and especially paying attention to the side and the edges, and then laid my paper on top. Once it was dry, I took my sand sponge that I got from the Dollar Tree, and I sanded down the edges to make it a nice clean cut. Now some of the paper ripped, and I actually really loved that because it made it look more rustic, and if you've been following me for a while, you know I love rustic. So I just went ahead and kind of went for it, and I sanded down all the edges to make sure that the white underneath kind of came up, or the board underneath came up, and I just loved how the edges turned out. Next, I grabbed my pack of vinyl words from the Target Dollar Spot, and like I said, this one is a 2-pack. So one of them says bloom, and then the other one says hello spring. So I just went ahead and peeled the words off and kind of positioned them, but of course you don't want to push down completely because you're going to need to pick them up, to move them, make sure that they're centered. Now, if you have a Cricut, I've actually seen some people use transfer paper to do this, or the contact paper. I just don't have any. I don't have a Cricut, so I couldn't do that method. But just picking them up and positioning them worked just fine with me. But that's just a little tip and a little hack that you can do. And then once I got my word on, I took the vine leaves and just kind of positioned them how I like them on the top and the bottom. Next, to make my words stand out just a little bit more, and of course to add that rustic look, I took my antique Waverly wax and a makeup sponge and just lightly brushed over the entire board. Then to make sure that all my letters stayed on, I went ahead and put a nice layer of Mod Podge right on top. Then I hit the sides with my makeup sponge and Waverly wax as well. And that completed this super cute, kind of shabby chic, I guess you would call it, but very rustic bloom sign for spring. What do you think? For For my next Target Spot DIY, I'm going to be using this super cute bunny stand that I picked up for $3. Now, I wanted to make a cloche with this, and it's the first time I ever made a cloche, so I thought this would be the perfect time to do it. So I picked up this gold wire basket that I got from the Dollar Tree, but it was just a little too wide on the bottom. So I decided that I was going to use some wire cutters and just cut the bottom rings off, and I cut right below the top ring. That way it made it just a little bit smaller. Now at first I went in with my wire cutters and that didn't work. Then I went in with my miter shears, that didn't work. Then I went back to the wire cutters and for some reason that worked this time. So I just went around the whole thing and just detached the bottom part from the top part. Now some of the little wire was hanging down over past the ring, so I just went as close as I could to the ring and cut off any of that wire hanging out. So I really wanted to dull down this gold, and I had picked up this metallic paint from Walmart, so I decided to try it. It doesn't look metallic, but it definitely dulled down the gold, which is what I was going for anyway. So I went ahead and gave this 2 coats, the best I could on wire, thin wire like this, of the metallic paint. As that was drying, I took this little ceramic egg that I got from the Dollar Tree, and by using my wire cutters, I plucked out the ring on top. Now I made a boo-boo here. I accidentally cut the wires. Do not do that. Use a needle nose plier to get the ring out, because once I cut it down, it was so hard for me to get the rest of those wires out. I had to take it into my room and take tweezers and really chip away at the top to get the rest of the wires out, or else anytime I touched the top, I'd get stabbed with the wires hanging out. You can see that they're on top. But first I gave it 2 good coats of ballet slipper chalk paint from Waverly. And then here is where I tried to get those wires out, and then I decided just to go take my tweezers and rip them out. After my egg was dry and the wires were out, I took my sanding block and I just sanded around the edges. Now there's like flowers and designs on the sides that are raised, so I just wanted to sand that to bring the white out from the bottom, because I thought this would add some dimension and a really cool touch to our cloche. Now, when I was cutting my basket originally, I accidentally cut the wire ring, so I just went ahead and repaired that with some hot glue. I just added some glue on there and then just held it for quite a while until the glue set. So next I had to figure out how I was going to attach this egg on top of the wire basket, because it was not going to stick to those wires. So I decided to get some foam board and trace around the egg and then cut it out. Now, if I could do this again, I would probably use poster board, because it would be thinner and you wouldn't really see the foam board or the poster board like you do the foam board. But I think it still turned out just fine. So then after I cut out my little foam board circle, I hot glued it to the inside, which will now be the top of our cloche, and then I added a generous amount of hot glue on top of that and then put the egg on top. Now I forgot to mention, you're going to want to paint this foam cord board or the poster board, whatever you end up using, in the ballet slipper or whatever color you color the egg, because I did end up going back and painting that because it just stuck out like a sore thumb. So definitely do the painting first. Now once I got my egg attached, I took some moss and a handful of it and just bunched it together and really squished it so it really wasn't that wild and crazy and it was more compact, and I put it in the middle of my stand. Then I took some more twine carrots and I had to repair one because one came unraveled, so I just fixed that with hot glue, and then I just stacked 3 of them right in the middle of the moss. Next, I stuck my lid back on my little tray. Then here's where I decided that I was going to paint the little foam board around it in the ballet slipper. Now I apologize, I went out of frame here because I had to get real close to my face so I could see, but I just ended up using that little brush that actually came with this egg, and it worked out perfectly. That way I could get in all the grooves. Then I decided that the moss was just a little too much, so I split it in half and then just made it a little smaller, squished it down, made it more compact, put my carrots in, and then put the cloche right back on. And I was left with this super cute stand for Easter. What do you think? For my third Target Spot DIY, I got this amazing boxwood, I believe it is, wreath for $3 in the Target dollar spot. And then I pulled out this sign that I got from the Dollar Tree. I plucked off the little metal bunny on the front and keep that near because we will be using this for this DIY too. And then I turned my sign over, cut off the hanger and the tag, and then gave this a really good coat of the Waverly Antique Wax. So next I wanted to achieve that chippy wood look. So I did that method that I learned from Windy City Crafts, but I believe I did it wrong. So I'm going to tell you what I did, and then I'm going to tell you where I think I did it wrong. So you can see that I'm spreading Vaseline or petroleum jelly all over this board. You don't want to do this. Apparently you're just supposed to do it in like random spots. You're not supposed to put it all over the board. So the next time I do this, I'm going to try doing it like that. Then once your jelly is all on, you're going to take a top coat, and I used Waverly chalk paint in ivory, and I painted it all over the top. Then you can see why I think I did it wrong, because now you have to let this completely dry. But when I scraped it, it scraped up so much. I did not mean for it to scrape up that much. So then I just took that brush that had the ivory paint on it and I just brushed it over. Now the end product did look kind of cool, like it really did look chippy, but it was just a little too chippy and like big chunks for me. So I just went ahead and dry brushed over those big chunks, and I think that this really created the look that I was going for. But next time I'm going to be sure to do it right. So next I took that wreath and I cut the tag off, and then I just inserted some Dollar Tree flowers that I got. So I got really pretty pink baby's breath, and then I got, well, that's what they're calling it. That's what they call baby's breath apparently. And and then I also used, I believe they were foxtails. Ignore that pink ribbon. I was going to do something with it and then I ended up not doing it, but and then I just took it out. So just ignore that. But yeah, I just took off the stems off of the bunch of baby's breath, and then I just hot glued them in there. Now be very careful because this is thin. You're going to want to use your finger protectors or your little makeup applicator thing that I'm using there, the pink tool. But I just randomly put these in, and I thought that this created such a spring look. Now I did leave a space up top where I didn't put any flowers. That way I could put a ribbon around there. So you're definitely going to want to leave a little space, and you can see where it is right on top. While you watch me arrange all these flowers, I just want to take this moment and thank you so much for all the love and support you have given my channel. I started this because I have a love for crafting and DIYing and decorating, and it's really been so much fun talking and speaking with all of my subscribers and followers, and I have just really enjoyed it. if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button and then hit that little bell too. That way you can get notified next time I upload a video. I have a ton of ideas and content coming up, and I wouldn't want you to miss a thing. Okay, so after I got all my flowers on, I took this pack of glittery, colorful eggs, mini eggs from the Dollar Tree. And they were just a little too colorful for me, so I just dry brushed some ivory paint on all of the eggs just to kind of dull down that color, and I love the pastel look that this created. Next, I arranged all my eggs onto my wreath and I just hot glued them down. Now, I kind of made a couple of them hidden, like underneath the flowers as I'm doing there. That way it's not so bold with eggs in the front, and they're just kind of peeking through. And I absolutely love how this wreath came out. Next, I took this super cute Easter burlap ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree and cut off a little piece, wrapped it around my wreath, and then hot glued the ends together. Then I flipped the whole thing over and hot glued the ribbon to the back of my board. Next, I took that little metal bunny that I had taken off the front of that sign, and I hot glued that to the middle of my wreath. It was super easy. You just put a generous amount of hot glue at the bottom and then push it around like where the stems are, or the harder part of the wreath, the frame, I guess, of the wreath. And then for the ear, I just put a little hot glue on top of the ear and then pushed it down, and it hit the ribbon and it stayed perfectly. Next, I took that other vinyl decal that I got from the 2-pack in the Target dollar spot, and this one says Hello Spring. So I arranged all the letters. I just took my time. I went really slow, and then once I had all my positioning how I liked it, I went ahead and pushed all my letters down. I did go ahead and use Mod Podge to protect all the vinyl letters from coming up, and then I added a little twine hanger on the top. That way I can hang my sign. I absolutely love how this came out. It is so springy and just colorful and vibrant, and I honestly think this is the perfect Easter piece. What do you think? For my next DIY, I took these stencils that I found in the Target dollar spot, and it is a 4-pack for $3, and I absolutely love these. I thought that the designs were so cute and perfect for spring. So the first thing I did was take this canvas and I ripped off the plastic all around it, and then using my little knife, I cut around the outside. At first I did it wrong. Then I learned. Cut around the outside of the staples and then rip the canvas off of the wood. Once all of the canvas was all torn off, I took my sanding sponge and I sanded down the front just a little bit to make it smooth. Next, I took a baby wipe and my antique Waverly wax and brushed over the frame to make it a faux stain. I love this method because then you don't have to deal with stain and it's not smelly, or it has chemicals, or you have to go outside or anything. So whenever I want to faux stain something, I love using this Waverly antique wax. I made sure to get all of the sides, including the inside of the frame as well. Next, I took these jumbo craft sticks that I got from Walmart, and hot glued them down long ways on my board. I ended up using 6. Now, if you do it long ways, they fit almost perfectly, so you don't have to cut anything down. But if I had any that were hanging over, I just sanded down the edges and it worked just fine. But the trick to this is you want to make sure to put the hot glue on the outside of the board, like nearest the edge. That way, when you push the stick down, the hot glue doesn't seep over into the board itself. I hope that made sense. But I just hot glued all of them down. Next, I took my Waverly chalk paint in ivory and painted the inside of my frame. Now, I would maybe recommend painting the sticks first before you hot glue them down, because as I was painting, I was getting paint on the inside edges, and then I accidentally hit it on the top. Now, I like the distressed look, so I just went with it and just kind of added more so it was all cohesive, but maybe paint them before you put them on and then you won't have that problem. So next, after my frame was dry, I took my favorite distressing brushes, and they're just called metal brushes, and they are from the Dollar Tree. And I had a new one, so I kind of had to, pounce it just a little bit. That way the bristles weren't so stiff. And then I just dry brushed some antique Waverly wax over all of my craft sticks. I just lightly brushed it over, and you want to make sure to go in one direction. Then I took my sand block and sanded it all down so it all blended together. Next, I took this stencil from the 4-pack of stencils I got from the Target Dollar Spot, and it does come with 2 stencil brushes too, which I think is so cool for $3. And I put my stencil in the middle of my board and then took some painter tape and taped it down. Next, by using a variety of different paints, I started painting the stencil. So I put some celery green paint from Waverly on these little vines. Now, I am not very good at painting, like mixing colors and stuff like that. So I really was just, I was just kind of going with the flow here. I was making it up as I went. I didn't really have a vision for this. So I was just kind of, painting where I thought that it looked right. So I just hit the vines there and then the leaves around it with that green paint. Then I decided I needed to add more tape because the stencil was kind of coming up. So I just added some tape around the edges. Then after that, I took my pink parfait paint and I painted the bigger flowers on both of the top and the bottom. Next, I took my lavender paint from Apple Barrel and I painted the smaller flower, or the middle-sized flower in that. Then I took my yellow paint from Apple Barrel and hit the smaller flower with that, and then those little, I don't know what you want to call them, tulips maybe? I don't know what they are, but those little flowers on the side. Then I went ahead and just filled in any of my empty spots with just the paint that I had and just finished up painting this stencil. Next, I carefully peeled off the stencil and I was left with this really cute base for painting. Now, I knew I would have to go in and add some detail work, and I'm going to do that in just a minute. But first, I wanted to add in an initial. So I put a Z because that's my parents' last name, and I'm going to give this to my mom. So first, I started off with this sticker that I got from the Dollar Tree, but you'll see I'm going to switch it out in a minute. So to add the detail work, I went ahead and took a small brush and I took the end of it and dipped it in my pink paint and just added some pink little buds on those vines on the side. Next, I took this really fine point white paint marker that I got from Walmart and just added some shading lines around the pink flower. So I just kind of like was doing it in like a doodle kind of effect because I wanted this to look homemade and handmade. So I just kind of outlined the petals and then just drew a bunch of lines in the middle to make the middle of my flower. Next, I took a darker purple and a really small paintbrush and did the same thing on all of the light purple flowers. Then I went back to that fine tip white paint marker and gave my yellow flowers some shadowing as well. Next, I took my fine point green Sharpie and I gave my green leaves and those vine some inside lines to kind of make some dimension. Now, one of my craft sticks was bowed, so if you see me holding it down with a finger, that's what I'm doing. I'm not just randomly putting that finger out, but I had to make it level with all the rest, and I am going to fix that problem in just a little bit. This is where I decided that I kind of wanted to get rid of the sticker and make it more like a stencil. So I took a black Sharpie and I just traced around my Z letter and then I colored it in with my black paint marker. Then to dull down the boldness of my black Sharpie, I went ahead and dry brushed over my letter and all of the colors with my ivory chalk paint. Then I sanded just the letter down to, again, just dull it down just a little bit, but also to bring up some of that natural wood that was underneath. Now, like I said, one of my craft sticks was bowing in the middle, so to fix this, I just hot glued 2 smaller craft sticks to the back, and that worked out perfectly. I absolutely love this. I know I've said that about probably all of these by now, but I just love how these all came out. They were just so colorful, and my mom loved this when I gave it to her. But what do you think? This last one really isn't a DIY, it's more of just styling these really cute baskets that I got from the Target dollar spot for $3 each. When I saw these, I knew I just had to have them. So all I did was just take a handful of raffia and put that in the bottom of my basket. Now I did push it down so that way it wasn't so wild and crazy and it was more compact. And then I just took a pack of speckled eggs that I got from the Dollar Tree and just styled them on top. For my other basket, I did the same thing, except for this time I put more of those twine carrots right on top. I love these. These are like a perfect filler on a shelf if you need to just add something, or a layering piece, so you could put these up on a riser and then put something in front of it. I love doing stuff like this. It just is so cute, and I love all of these colors. And you could really fill these baskets with anything you like. I thought flowers would be really cute too. The possibilities are endless, but what do you think? Okay, now I know that I said this several times in this video, but I absolutely love how each one of these DIYs came out. I am in love with the pastel colors of spring, and I am so ready to decorate my house, well, actually my mom's house, because that's where I live right now, for spring. In fact, she's loving all this because she said she doesn't even have to take out all of her Easter decorations this year. She's just going to use my DIYs all around her house. Now, don't forget, I have a ton more ideas coming to you soon, so you're definitely going to want to subscribe because, like I said, I wouldn't want you to miss a thing. You're going to have to let me know in the comments which one was your favorite. Usually I can pick a favorite, but I really can't. I love them all. I want to thank you so much for watching my video today. If you would be so kind to give this video a thumbs up because it really helps to grow my YouTube channel. Then don't forget to subscribe and hit that little notification bell so you can get notified anytime I upload a new video. Then like and follow me over on Facebook and Instagram to join my crafting community and to see behind the scenes content. I hope you got a lot of great ideas and are inspired to make your own DIYs. Well, until I see you again, I'll craft with you soon. Bye!